Tied, teased, and tempted. I suggested a deal with the alien Amazon. The capture of the Wanderer. The emergency beacon's crimson light painted Marcus Chen's face as his survey pod spiraled through Zalara's atmosphere. The planet's twin suns cast purple shadows across the jungle canopy, rushing up to meet him. His fingers danced across failing controls, each movement more desperate than the last. The impact came swift and brutal, metal shrieking against ancient trees before silence swallowed everything. Marcus awoke to find himself suspended 3 feet above the ground, wrapped in vines that pulsed with soft bioluminescent blue. The restraints held firm but didn't cut into his skin, almost gentle, like living silk. Through the haze of confusion, he heard footsteps approaching through the undergrowth. Each step was deliberate, calculated, the movement of a predator who knew their territory intimately. She emerged from the shadows like a myth-given form. Lyraneth stood tall and athletic, her violet-tinted skin adorned with intricate silver markings that seemed to shift in the filtered sunlight. Her silver eyes studied him with an intensity that made his breath catch. She wore fitted leather armor that emphasized her warrior's build while allowing fluid movement. Long white hair was braided with small bones and luminous stones that clicked softly as she moved. "Another Skyfallen one," she said in accented but clear standard, circling him slowly. Her hand rested casually on the curved blade at her hip. "Your kind rarely survives the greeting of our forest, yet here you breathe." She reached out, fingers barely grazing the vines that held him. "The sacred grove chose to preserve you rather than consume you. Curious." Marcus found his voice despite his precarious position. "I'm Marcus Chen, xenoanthropologist with the Frontier Survey Corps. My ship malfunctioned. I mean no harm to your people." Lyranetha's laugh was like distant thunder, both beautiful and dangerous. "Harm?" She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint luminescence in her skin, smell something like cinnamon and ozone. "Little wanderer, you couldn't harm a silkwing beetle in your current state." Her finger traced the air inches from his face, not quite touching. "But you've trespassed on sacred ground. The council will decide if your preservation was wisdom or waste." She whistled, a haunting melody that seemed to make the very air shimmer. The vines began to lower him, still bound but allowing his feet to touch earth. "Walk, Skyfallen Marcus. Your fate awaits." The arena of choices. The tribal settlement emerged from the jungle like an organic extension of the forest itself. Structures woven from living wood spiraled around massive trees, connected by bridges that swayed gently in the breeze. Marcus stumbled forward, still bound at the wrists by the softly glowing vines, with Lyranetha's presence a constant warmth at his back. The arena was a natural amphitheater carved from purple stone, filled with hundreds of Zelaran warriors. Their collective gaze felt like physical weight as Lyraneth guided him to the center. The council sat elevated on carved thrones, 5 elders whose skin bore centuries of silver markings. "War Chief Lyraneth," the central elder spoke, her voice carrying despite its softness. "You bring another outsider to our sacred spaces. Speak for his presence." Lyraneth stepped forward, her hand briefly brushing Marcus's arm, a touch that sent unexpected electricity through him. "Elder Siveren, the grove's vines chose preservation over consumption. I believe there's meaning in this choice." "Your youth makes you see signs where none exist," another elder interjected. "The last Skyfallen brought only sorrow." Marcus cleared his throat. "Honored council, if I may." The arena fell silent. "I'm a scholar, not a conqueror. My equipment detected unusual energy readings from your sacred tree, the same readings that suggest it's dying." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lyraneth turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. "You dare speak of the heart tree?" "I can help," Marcus pressed on, meeting her intense gaze. "My scans showed similarity to technology I've studied, ancient terraforming systems. There's a temple, perhaps 3 days into the jungle. If the old star maps are correct, it holds regeneration protocols that could heal your tree." Elder Siveren leaned forward. "And your price for this knowledge?" "My freedom, eventually. But first, let me prove my worth. If I fail, I'll accept whatever judgment you deem fit." The council murmured among themselves. Lyraneth moved closer to him, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow felt more intimate than any touch. You gamble with your life, wanderer. The deep jungle has swallowed warriors far stronger than you. Then I'll need an excellent guide, he replied, surprised by his own boldness. Something flickered in her silver eyes. Amusement? Interest? The council accepts, Elder Siveren announced. Lyraneth, you will accompany him. His life is bound to yours until this task ends. Lyraneth's smile was sharp as starlight. Bound together, then. How poetic. Journey through the crimson canopy. The morning mist clung to the jungle floor as they ventured beyond the settlement's borders. Lyraneth moved through the dense vegetation like water, while Marcus struggled to match her grace. She'd replaced his vine restraints with a biofiber rope connecting them. For your safety, she'd said with that enigmatic smile. Tell me about your world, she said, helping him navigate a fallen log slick with phosphorescent moss. Her hand lingered on his for a moment longer than necessary. It's nothing like this, Marcus admitted, mesmerized by how the filtered light played across her skin. Cities of steel and glass, skies you can barely see through the pollution. That's why I became an explorer, searching for something more. And have you found it? She pulled him up a steep incline, their bodies briefly pressed together as he found his footing. Before he could answer, the sky darkened unnaturally. Thunder rolled across the canopy, and within seconds, torrential rain crashed down. Lyraneth grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a cave entrance he hadn't even noticed. Inside, she produced a small orb that cast warm golden light. Their wet clothes clung uncomfortably, and Marcus noticed her shivering slightly. The storm will pass by dawn, she said, wringing water from her long hair. Marcus opened his pack, pulling out an emergency thermal blanket. It's designed to retain body heat, he explained, offering it to her. She looked at him curiously, then spread it on the cave floor, sitting and patting the space beside her. Share your strange sky-fallen magic. He sat carefully, maintaining respectful distance, but she pulled him closer, wrapping the blanket around them both. Survival requires practicality, she murmured, though her voice carried a note of something else. Why did you really argue for my life? Marcus asked quietly. She was silent for a long moment, her body warm against his side. The last sky fallen was my mentor. She taught me that understanding others makes us stronger, not weaker. When she died, I became the youngest war chief in our history, trying to fill shoes I'm still growing into. That's a heavy burden. She turned to look at him, their faces inches apart. Perhaps that's why the vines preserved you. The forest knows I need. She paused, her usual confidence wavering, something I haven't found among my own kind. The storm raged outside, but within their small circle of warmth and light, something delicate and unexpected began to bloom. The Temple of Whispers. The temple rose from the jungle like the bones of a fallen giant, its crystalline spires twisted into impossible angles. Marcus checked his scanner while Lyraneth studied the entrance, her warrior instincts alert. 3 days of travel had worn away the formal distance between them, replaced by something far more dangerous, genuine affection. The entry mechanism requires 2 people, Marcus observed, indicating twin panels glowing faintly on either side of a sealed door. We'll need to synchronize our movements perfectly. Lyraneth moved to one panel while he took the other. Like the dance of the twin moons, she said. Have you ever danced, Marcus? Not well, he admitted, placing his hands on the panel. The symbols that appeared seemed to respond to biorhythms, heartbeat, breathing, neural patterns. Follow my lead, she instructed, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality. Breathe with me. They began to move in tandem, each gesture mirrored, each breath shared. The panels grew brighter with their synchronization. Marcus found himself hyper-aware of every subtle movement she made, the curve of her arm, the tilt of her head, the controlled power in her stance. Closer, she said, and he wasn't sure if she meant their movements or something else entirely. The door began to iris open. Inside, the temple was a maze of light bridges and floating platforms. Each challenge required them to work as one, him decoding ancient symbols while she navigated the physical obstacles, often needing to press close as they balanced on narrow ledges or squeeze through tight passages. There, Marcus pointed to a chamber above them, its entrance barely wide enough for one person. Lyraneth boosted him up, her hands firm on his waist, then he pulled her after. The confined space forced them chest to chest, breathing shared air. "Your heart races, Wanderer," she observed, her voice low and amused. "Is it fear or something else?" "You know the answer," he managed, aware of every point where their bodies touched. She smiled, a real smile this time, soft and unguarded. "As does mine." They retrieved the regeneration matrix, a crystal that pulsed with life itself. But as they turned to leave, the temple's defenses activated. Lyraneth pushed Marcus behind her, drawing her blade as energy barriers began closing off their escape routes. "Together?" Marcus asked, taking her free hand. "Together," she confirmed, and they ran, diving through closing barriers, her combat skills and his technical knowledge combining seamlessly. When they finally burst free into jungle air, they collapsed against each other, laughing with relief and exhilaration. "We make an effective partnership," Lyraneth said, still breathless, her forehead resting against his. "Is that what we're calling it?" Marcus asked, his thumb tracing the silver markings on her hand. Her answer was in the way she didn't pull away. "Under twin moons." The waterfall glowed with bioluminescent algae, creating curtains of living light that fell into pools of liquid starlight. They'd made camp here for their final night before returning to the settlement, the successful mission weighing differently on each of them. The regeneration matrix sat secured in Marcus's pack, but neither spoke of what came next. Lyraneth stood knee-deep in the pool, letting the luminous water run through her fingers. "On Zalara, we have a saying, every ending carries the seed of beginning." Marcus joined her in the water, the coolness a relief after days of jungle heat. "And what are we ending?" "A mission. A deal." She moved closer, the water rippling around her. "Unless." His voice was barely above a whisper. She reached up, her fingers tracing the scar on his jaw he'd earned from their temple escape. "You spoke of searching for something more. Have you found it?" "Yes," he answered without hesitation, catching her hand and pressing it to his chest where his heart beat wildly. "The question is whether I can keep it." "The council will grant your freedom as promised," she said, but her voice carried a weight of loss. "You can return to your stars." "What if I don't want to?" He pulled her closer, their bodies fitting together as perfectly as they had in every challenge they'd faced. "What if my freedom means nothing without?" She silenced him with a kiss, soft at first, then deeper as he responded. The taste of her was exotic spices and lightning, familiar and foreign all at once. When they parted, her silver eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "You would stay? Give up your sky-fallen life for this?" She gestured to the jungle around them. "I'd give it up for you," he corrected, brushing white hair back from her face. "If you'll have me. Not as a prisoner or obligation, but as my chosen," she finished, using the Zelleran word that meant partner, equal, beloved. The youngest war chief taking a sky-fallen as her mate. "The elders will be scandalized." "Is that a yes?" Instead of answering with words, she drew him deeper into the glowing pool, where the light turned their skin to silver and gold. They came together with the inevitability of orbiting bodies, no longer wanderer and warrior but something new, something neither had dared hope for. Later, wrapped in each other on the shore, watching Zalara's twin moons rise, Marcus traced the marking on her shoulder that signified her rank.
"No regrets."
"Only one," Lyraneth murmured against his neck. "That I must share you with my people now. These days have been ours alone." "We'll have more," he promised. "A lifetime of them." She smiled, fierce and tender at once. "Then let us begin." The end.